Good afternoon. I'm so glad people are back today for part 2 of building motivation, because I think really today we're going to build on that beginning conversation we had last week about, I think everybody is here because there's something that they want to do differently and are maybe struggling to get started, struggling to kind of stay focused on what they want to accomplish or what they want to change. Maybe you've had some success and then you've gotten back into your old patterns. As I mentioned last week, it could be that you feel motivated, but you just don't know what to do. You don't know where to start. It just feels very overwhelming to start moving in the direction you want to go. And that's really what we're going to talk about today, because if we want to do something different and we don't see a path forward, or the highway looks too many lanes and is too big, right? We might get on the highway and then get off because the traffic is too overwhelming. We may get on the highway and then realize we're headed in the wrong direction. So what I really am going to be talking about today is, how do we make those efforts in the direction of change manageable with enough signposts of success to keep you going? Because there's really, like, one of the things that is demotivating that I hear most frequently is failure. Right? If you set yourself up to do something and then you don't do it, I'm like, even right? Like I have the same experience where I'll just kind of like beat myself up, or I'll, even if I don't label myself as a bad person, I'm kind of internally yelling at myself for not doing it. And if yelling at yourself for not doing something was an effective motivator, then I think far fewer people would struggle with motivation, because we would respond to that. And that just doesn't tend to be effective overall. And if it is effective, I would hazard to guess as a therapist that there are some costs to that being effective that end up counterbalancing whatever good it contributes. So with all of that being said, I am going to share my screen here. So here we are in week 2. So let's just really briefly recap last week, right? Change is a process. It's not an on-off switch. You go through different phases, and those can be linear, meaning we move forward, but we can also sort of cycle back to earlier phases, right? So, it may be that you were in preparation and now you kind of went back to contemplation. Maybe you thought, okay, I'm ready to do something, and then it felt too overwhelming to do something. And then you went back to start thinking again about, like, is this worth it or not? Can I do this, etc. Thinking about that slide from last week, and yes, everybody's going to get the slides, that we can match up. If we know what stage of change we're in, we can match up the things that we intentionally do to help us build motivation to move into that next stage, right? And if you are in contemplation, right, keep in mind, you're not going to make a leap into action or maintenance right away, right? Before action becomes preparation. And I would actually say, I think everybody being here, you've made a commitment by being here that there's something that is worth changing. This is the preparation that you are doing for yourself, right? It's step by step, because what you want is, you want this to be long term. You don't want this to be a flash in a pan. And my dad used to say to me, anything worth doing is worth doing well. And so if we follow that philosophy, we want to invest in ourselves in taking time to set ourselves up for success, so that we can get on the highway and stay on the highway in the direction that we want to go in. When we think about how do we keep motivation going, right, is to be hopeful that we're going to be able to do the thing that we want to do. And how do we build hope? We want to have that willpower, which is motivation, paired with way power, which is, do I know how to get where I want to go? do I know what I need to achieve what I want to achieve? And then that that also coincides with our goals. Do we know what our goal is? Do we know exactly what it is that we're trying to achieve here? Um, if we struggle with willpower or way power, if we struggle with really being clear with ourselves about what we're trying to achieve or add to our life, any of those areas of struggle can cause us to have meet a speed bump, right? And as I said last week, thinking about, is there one of those or more than one of those pieces that you struggle with? Because if there's a piece that you struggle with, then that just says, okay, this is the thing I need to spend a little bit more time on. Do I feel really motivated and have energy in my tank, but then I hit a wall because I just don't know where to start, right? That may not be a problem with willpower. It is a problem with way power because you have nowhere effectively to put that energy that you have. Maybe you have a goal in mind, but it is so broad and so big that you don't quite know what you're working towards, right? If I want to lead a healthy lifestyle, what does that mean? That feels overwhelming to me. I would feel paralyzed if I just said my goal is a healthy lifestyle, because that can mean a lot of different things. And if we really focus on the things that motivate us, that we know have motivated us in the past, not the things we think should motivate us, not the fact that you had a cancer diagnosis, not the fact that your doctor told you it would be a good idea to do something, right? Those can be motivators, but I will tell you, for most of the people I work with, that is an insufficient motivator. And what happens is it becomes demoralizing and demotivating, because then what happens is the people I work with start saying, what's wrong with me? I must be defective that these things are not motivating me. Just means we got to tap into what does motivate you, right? That's all. That's all. We can also be aware of what's going to hurt our motivation, because then we can plan around those things, right? I'm going to the birthday party. I'm trying to eat, but I'm trying to eat healthier. I'm trying to eat less. That translates to eating less sugar. I know that there's going to be birthday cake, and I know that my sister is an amazing baker and she's going to have that cake I love. And what am I going to do about that? Right? Then you can go into that prepared with a plan of self-compassion. I'm going to eat the cake. I'm going to eat the cake. It doesn't mean that that's it. I'm not eating healthy. It doesn't mean I'm not watching my sugar intake. It could be, I'm going to figure out how am I going to make sure I'm full going into that situation so I feel satiated. I'm going to come up with a plan of an alternative so I have something to eat to be a part of the celebration that involves food, right? Because food means a lot of different things. It's not just about nurturing our body. It is also a social activity that nurtures our soul. So all ignoring speed bumps or thinking that there's nothing that's going to hurt your motivation, not looking at that, is actually less helpful to motivation than spending some time thinking about that. What research has shown is people who are aware of speed bumps are higher in hope, or people who are more hopeful take time to evaluate and think about what speed bumps they may encounter. So I'm going to return here today to talk about value-informed goals. And I'm going to talk about some of those value areas that can serve as motivation for goals, right? Because when something is meaningful, truly meaningful for us, it is going to give us gas in our tank to pursue something. The doctor telling us to do something may in some way contribute to like an understanding of why something is important, right? Maybe that helps with the contemplation phase of like, okay, I see the value of doing something different, but that is not the same as connecting with the change you're making with something that is deeply felt and is important to you. And then we're also going to spend some time talking about how do we think through our goals in a way that is strategic, that is going to set us up for success and allow us to create a feedback loop of success so we feel good about what we're doing, so we feel like we're making progress, and so we're motivated to stay on that path and keep building on that path. Okay, so value-centered goals. I started talking about this the last time we met. Values are not the same as goals. Values are telling us the direction we want to go in, but they don't tell us what the destination is, right? We could all say, I want to travel east. That could be a shared value we have. We all have a value of going in a certain direction. The behavior that translates to could look differently, even if it's feeding the same value we have. So I think part of this is for you guys to start thinking a little more creatively about how values can actually inform some of your goals in a way that is really important to you, but may not on the outside feel directly connected. For example, and I'm just going to go to the next slide here to have this up here. Oh, I went too far. Okay. I could have a goal around parenting, about being a stable presence in my children's life. Now, I could translate that to a lot of things, right? I could translate that to I'm going to get home earlier and be home for dinner every night. I could translate that to I'm going to spend 15 minutes with them at bedtime every night reading a book, right? These are actionable things that feed into that value for me, right? Think about the goal is what can be seen from the outside that is a reflection of the thing that's important to you. Now, I could also say I want to be a stable presence for my child, and that relates really directly to me eating healthier, because when I don't eat healthier, what I find is I get more irritable. I have a lot of GI symptoms. I can't really be present for her in the way I want to be. And so if I want to be stable presence for my kid, I need to start doing something about my nutrition because it's really having an impact on how I show up for them. Now, on the outside, the idea of we're eating healthier may seem like it should just be about physical well-being, right? Like that's the most direct connection we could make. There could be other things driving that. And if you are somebody coming in here thinking about healthy lifestyle changes, I really want to challenge you to think about one of these other value domains that may serve as a powerful motivator for you. Because I would just hazard to guess is if healthy lifestyle changes was just about physical well-being, then the doctor saying, hey, you should do this because it's good for your health, that would probably be a bigger motivator, right? And it's okay if it's not. I hope that that is something that people take away from this is having the doctor tell you to do something and not feeling motivated to do it. That's okay. We just got to figure out what connection can you make for yourself that is going to make that change feel meaningful to you. And I am going to take a moment here to throw up a poll. Let's see. Okay. So what I want to encourage you guys to think about here, and I'm going to go to my next slide, but you've got that poll up there, is to think about when you think about the primary reason you're here, the primary change that you're like, God, I want this to be different and I can't figure out how to start it. I can't figure out how to maintain it. And maybe you've got several different changes, but if you can just pick one and just start thinking, what can I connect this to that is going to make it meaningful for me? Okay. And it might be that you can connect it to more than one, but I'm just going to ask you to identify one area that could be a driving force here for you. So as I showed last time, right, we can translate our goals, our values, right? We have a value area of parenting, but what we value in that area is going to differ from person to person. There's likely some overlap, but there's also differences, right? So we take this broad category of value and then we winnow it down to say what exactly is important to me to have in my life related to that domain. And then what could somebody, a fly on the wall, what would I point to a fly in the wall to say, like, listen, this is important to me, and this is how I show that it's important to me. This is how I show my kids that this is important to me. This is how I show my partner that this is important to me, right? We're translating that into something that is actionable. I will also say that when it comes to a cancer diagnosis, there becomes a very tight focus, as is understandable, on physical well-being, right? Regardless of one's prognosis, when you hear the words cancer, it is understandable to feel like that is a life and death situation. Yeah. And so getting your body into a safe state, that's adaptable, right? If your body is threatened, you want that instinct that says, how do I get back to safety? Now, the challenge is that it can sometimes be difficult to step back and look at the other buckets, look at the other baskets of values that you have in your life. So if you find that you have been very focused on physical well-being and been really concentrating on that, I'm going to encourage you to think about what are the other areas that are important to you that maybe not only deserve some attention, but may also, you may benefit from making that connection between the change you want to make and that thing that's important to you, in addition to your physical well-being. And I'm going to end this poll and share the results so everybody can kind of see we've got some overlap. We've got some differences here, right? Lots of people are connecting to that physical well-being. And I think the thing that as we're going through the presentation and even after today is taking that larger domain and be thinking about what exactly in that is important to me, right? What is important to me is my family relations or my intimate relations, and that's important to me. And what's particularly important to me, as an example up here, is I want to have enjoyable time with my partner, right? What is important to me is I have a value of feeling this balance between this experience of balance and joy. That's a very important part of my spirituality and my connection to the world around me, right? So we take this, we have to start thinking about what exactly is it that is the thing that I want to make sure is a part of my life. So far, makes sense? The people on camera, maybe some nods. Yeah. And Lisa is here. So if you have a question, feel free to put it in the chat. I will acknowledge I don't have the chat up right now, but Lisa will let me know if there's a question in there. Okay. So now we got to talk about way power. Do I know how to get where I want to go? And it's very, very common to start with this very broad goal, right? I want to be less stressed. I want to laugh more. I want to eat healthier. I'm going to be more physically active. What does that look like? Where are those people starting? What are they building on? What are they doing? How will they know that they are taking steps to have that be a part of their life? And I should say, I like to talk about these. I talk about them as toilet paper goals. Now, bear with me because I used this analogy before COVID. I just want to say this. A little something about me. I hate buying toilet paper. Do not ask me why. I want to go to Costco. I want to buy 18 rolls of toilet paper and I want to never run out of it. I find it very irritating that I have to, at some point in time, I realize I have run out of toilet paper. And what do? Do I just say I'm done with toilet paper? I bought that roll of toilet paper and I'm done. No, I don't, to everybody's reassurance. I go back and I buy more toilet paper. Okay. A lot of times the goals we're talking about here about making a change in our life, they are toilet paper goals. We're not going to just go and do that one thing and then say, oh, I'm all done. I laughed with my partner, so I accomplished that goal. Oh, I ate an apple. I ate healthier. Let's hit up the drive-through, right? No, these are things that we want to implement and we want to sustain and that we are working on maintaining, that we are constantly sort of attending to as a way to feel fulfilled, as a way to feel like we are living the things that are important to us. So I do have people sometimes that have very concrete goals that have a very definitive end, right? I had somebody who came in and they really wanted to like set up their art room, their art space because they were an artist and they didn't have access to their art supplies, right? So some of you might have a goal like that where you're going to reach a end point. My guess is a lot of you have these broad goals, and I don't know where you should start. If you're already doing yoga and you're already doing progressive muscle relaxation, the starting point for that person, as far as being less stressed, is going to be very different than a person who's like, I have very little body awareness. I've never done mind body experiences. It's very hard for me to know that I am stressed until I blow a socket, right? That's going to be a very different starting point with very different goals along the way to help those two people achieve what on the outward glance is the same exact goal. So we want to get more specific, right? We want to know, what would I be doing differently? Again, it's that idea of externalizing the thing you want to change. What if I snapped my fingers and made it so tomorrow, what would be different in your life? What would look different in your life? What are you willing to work on right now? Right? Like everybody is here because they either had cancer or somebody in their life had cancer. And can we talk about an energy suck? Right? It is not only an energy suck because physically the treatments and the diagnosis itself may rob you of energy temporarily, but it is also mentally and emotionally exhausting. So we also want to be realistic about like, what do I feel like I can do? I think I shared with you that right now I'm in the process of getting back to working out. I do not have the energy, the mental wherewithal to go to the gym right now. I will find an excuse every way till next Wednesday to not get up and put my shoes on and put my coat on. It's cold out. I'm trying to work out at night. It's dark, right? Okay. What I do have the energy for is to walk a flight of stairs down and exercise. What I do have the energy for is when I get home from work, I immediately put my exercise clothes on, right? That's what I can give to this. Does it mean that's always what I'm going to give to this? Maybe. Maybe I'm going to say this is good. This is I can maintain this, but that may just be a step, right? It may be a step to getting me back to the gym. It is a step towards getting me back to doing some of the workout routines that I used to do on television. And you can notice what I'm saying, right? Is I'm already setting us up the idea that this is about developing a series of goals that are working towards the overarching goal versus attacking the overarching goal in one bite, right? What do they say? There's some proverb or saying that says, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? Lots of people, I'm going to guess a lot of you, have tried to shove the entire elephant in your mouth and it didn't work. You choked on it a little bit there, which is understandable. So we want to take manageable bites, right? You also want to know, how am I going to know that I'm doing the thing I said I was going to do, right? If I just say, well, I'm going to start exercising more, is that like once a week? Is that for half an hour? Like thinking about what is it that I'm looking to try to implement so that when I'm doing it, I can say, I'm doing it, right? Because if I say I'm going to exercise more, and that's my broad goal, and I'm going to exercise at home, and that's my still broad goal, it's a little bit narrower. And I only exercise 4 days a week. What does that leave space for? I'll tell you what it would leave space for me. Oh, yeah, I exercised 4 days, but why didn't I exercise 5 or 6 days? I totally could have exercised more. Why didn't I exercise more? I'm just lazy, right? Negative self-talk. Would never tolerate you talking to my kid that way, but I certainly talk to myself that way. So I want to put a stake in the sand, right? I realized honestly, I was doing that very thing. And last week I was like 4 days. 4 days is my goal right now. Can I maintain exercising 4 days a week? If I do more, fine, but that is what I'm expecting of myself because I went from zero. So four is a lot more than zero, right? And that feeds into how am I going to know I've reached my mark, right? When we make it measurable, now we can have a sense of like last week, I exercised 4 days. You want to know how I felt? Fantastic. Because I did the thing I was going to say I was going to do. I feel like I'm getting back on the horse. I feel like right now that's where I'm going to stay for a little while, right? But I feel good because, oh, I said I was going to do something and I did it. It took me a couple weeks to get there. So the other thing is also timing. How long is it going to take me to get there? Now, a lot of people, especially if they were in education or they worked in the corporate world, they have heard of SMART goals. Um, what I find, if you've heard about SMART goals before, is by the end of the presentation, the feedback I often get from people that have worked with SMART goals before, they're like, oh, I totally knew what SMART goals were, but I never thought about using them in this context. I thought about them within my professional self, but I never thought about them related to my personal self. If you don't know what the heck I'm talking about with SMART goals, don't worry, I'm about to tell you. So SMART goals is an acronym and it stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. So what do I mean by that? Do I know who's involved, what's involved, where it's going to happen? Am I aware of any constraints, right? For instance, for me, it's in my house, I'm exercising, it's at nighttime. One of the constraints for me is sometimes I get home late from work. So am I still exercising on the days I work late, right? That's something to think through. It takes into account even exercising at night. One of the constraints I realize is like, I do not like getting up when it's dark out still. So that helped me determine my when. Is it measurable? What period of time am I going to be working towards this goal? How much of a thing am I trying to do? How many days, how many things am I trying to do, right? 4 days, 30 minutes a day, right? Is it within reach? Can I do that? Like if I had set a goal of I've not been working out for a couple months. And what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to work out 5 days a week and I'm going to do the elliptical for 30 minutes. And then I'm going to do a weight program for 30 minutes. And then I'm going to do yoga for 30 minutes. Does that sound achievable to people here? Because I'll tell you, it didn't feel achievable to me. So I think that's the other thing is if you tend to be somebody who like, I'm going to take on everything, I can do this, and then you stall out, what I would say is this is a good space to step back and say, am I just asking too much of myself up front? And do I need to just break it down into smaller pieces? A lot of times when I'm working with people individually on goal setting and I'll talk to them, we kind of do a little like contracting of like, okay, so before we meet again, what you're going to do is you're going to listen to the meditation twice before we meet next week, right? Okay, what time of day are you going to do that? Are there specific days? We kind of talk that through. Great. We come back and I say to them, so how did it go? And they say, I didn't do it. And I'm like, okay, all right. That goal was not the starting point. We just have to figure out the starting point. Was it too many days? Was the meditation too long? Do we need to find a smaller meditation? Do we maybe need to find something that's a little more flexible because listening to a meditation, having time to listen to a meditation just doesn't fit with my lifestyle right now, right? We can talk that through because remember, stepping back and taking smaller steps is going to start you moving down the path. Keeping a big goal and stalling out is going to keep you where you're at. Rome wasn't built in a day. Is it relevant? Is it worthwhile? Is it related to my overarching goals? I had somebody that was working with me in this program. I used to do it over a series of weeks and we would develop goals along the way. And their goal was to eat healthier. And then they came in, and when we were developing SMART goals, they started talking about going to the gym and going and buying gym sneakers. And I was like, is going to the gym related to eating healthier? Oh, no, it's not. Okay. It's a great goal. It's a great goal to go to the gym. Is that what you're trying to work on now? No, it really isn't. I really want to change my eating habits. Okay, let's back up and say what would be related to eating healthier, right? And then finally, do we have a time limit? We're going to have a built-in time of when we're going to check in with ourselves to see if we've implemented something, right? So, for instance, I say my broad goal is I want to be less stressed. I'm going to do progressive muscle relaxation. I'm going to do it in the mornings at home. I need to do it before my daughter wakes up, right? I'm just walking through an example, and then Cheryl is kind enough that I'm going to actually walk through the process of how do we get here. Is it measurable? I've set a goal. I'm going to do it 3 days a week, and I'm going to do it for 20 minutes a session. Is it achievable? Well, I already practice once a week. Notice I'm not starting from zero. It goes back to the idea of if somebody's working on their stress level and they do yoga and they do meditation, or they've had experience with yoga and they've had experience with meditation, that person's starting point is going to be very different from a person who's like, I have never been in touch with being stressed. If you had asked me before, I would have denied it. That person has a very different starting point. So that achievable piece is about being realistic with ourselves about where we're starting. There is the idea of our super ego, our idealized sense of self, and then there is our ego, the who we are right now. We want to get in touch with who we are right now. And sometimes that involves having some self-compassion. You know, maybe when you step back, you're like, I eat like crap, if I'm really honest with myself. And so eating healthy is like, I got to step back and acknowledge, like, I eat at McDonald's 3 days a week. That might not feel so good to take that look at yourself, but being compassionate to say, and being honest with myself is going to allow me to be successful because I know what I want to achieve. I just have to make sure that it's something that I'm going to be able to do given my starting point. Is it relevant, right? Progressive muscle relaxation, for those of you who don't know, is a systematic way of tensing and releasing muscle tension that elicits a relaxation response in our body, which allows us to deactivate our alarm system and our nervous system, which is going to help us feel less stressed. So very relevant. And is it timely, right? I'm going to set a goal. I'm going to set a number of days I'm trying to work towards, right? My first week might not be 3 days. I'm giving myself a little bit of a runway because what I want to be able to look back on the week that ends in March 7th, I want to look back that week and say, I've done it 3 days a week, right? So some of it is also saying to yourself, like, how much do I need to ease in to this goal? Do I need an interim goal, or can I set this goal and just give myself a little bit of time to get there? So now I've moved from this very broad, I wish I could be less stressed, to by March 7th, I will practice PMR at least 3 mornings per week for 20 minutes per section. If you are a fly on the wall and you are buzzing around me every day for 24 hours a day, would you be able to see if I did this or not? Yeah, you'd be able to see it, right? I've translated it into something that can be pointed to. Not only can I point it to the fly on the wall, but let's make that fly on the wall the internal judge that's saying whether or not you're doing a good enough job of working on the thing you want to change. And that fly on the wall could say, oh, yeah, she did do the progressive muscle relaxation. It's like last week when I had said I was going to work out 4 days a week, and there was this panic I felt on Sunday of like, oh my God, I didn't work out today. And then I stepped back and I was like, oh, but I worked out 4 days this week. And that's what I said to myself that I wanted to start doing because that felt like achievable. Now, I may, just to say, SMART goals are like a ladder, right? So once you climb up one rung, you might stay there for a little while to catch your breath, and then you're going to climb up another ladder, another rung, right? So you may achieve this goal and savor some of your success, and then the next move will be to say, okay, what's the next step in this? Is there a next step in this? Okay, so I think, does everybody still see develop SMART goals, but it's just not in the pretty, you see all my other slides too. Yep, I'm getting some nods. Okay, Cheryl, can I ask you to come off mute, or Lisa, can I ask you to unmute Cheryl for me? If I can. You get a little unmute.
I think I'm there.
There you are. You are,
Yay!
Cheryl. Cheryl, thank you so much for being a part of this, because I do think I always find this really valuable to for other people, like you're going to get to experience this, but for everybody here to sort of see the sort of spiral conversation that can occur as we try to get more specific and really be intentional about what we're trying to kind of contract with ourselves to be working on in service of the bigger goal. So Cheryl, can I just ask you, like, if you were going to like broad strokes, not the SMART goal format. I'm talking about before you ever heard any of this. If I had asked you last Thursday what you wanted to change, what would you have said?
Definitely my health, my eating habits and fitness habits.
Okay. And I'm going to guess like improving them.
100%.
Okay. Now I'm going to acknowledge something here is these are both potentially big areas,
Yes.
both worthy. Um, Trying to tackle two things at the same time uh, can be reasonable if one of them is already in motion, right? If I figured out how to rub my belly and I've got that going, then I can start tapping my head. But if I go to start doing them at the same time, I end up rubbing my hair into a mess.
Yeah.
So Cheryl, just so I know, you don't have to get into specifics, but do you feel like in one of these areas, you've already really been working on it? You've got habits established that you're doing on a regular basis?
I do. I feel like the fitness aspect is a little bit further ahead.
Okay.
I do. I have an exercise bike here at home, as well as I work at a tennis club where I have accessibility to fitness equipment. And
Okay.
so when I go to work, I honestly, this year, more times than not, I go in early to jump on the bike there.
Wonderful.
So, and then at
Wonderful.
least once on the weekend, I jump on the bike at home. So
Okay.
there's definitely room for improvement to add like more free weight work and that sort of thing. But I feel like I have some system in place for the
Yep.
fitness aspect. So we could certainly just focus on the eating if
Okay.
that makes
And so let's acknowledge, right? Like you've already stepped on the ladder of improving your fitness habits. It
correct.
sounds like you've got multiple options for that.
Yes.
There's things that it sounds like you've kind of made a commitment to yourself of, even when I'm not at work, I'm going to try to exercise at home one day a week.
Right.
Um, I think what I want to highlight here is if you've got a goal that involves two parts,
Yeah.
I would bifurcate those, I would separate them, and I would make them their own two umbrellas. And I hear you saying, I'm on the way with fitness. And, I hear you saying, I'm not done there.
No.
There's another rung I want to go up,
Yeah.
right? So there's a process where you're already saying, this is a process. I'm not going to do everything. I didn't start on the bike and doing
Right.
the walking and and I'm doing the weight all at the same time. I picked it all up at the same time. You're getting the engine warmed up, right? Like it's like in the
Right.
winter time, it's really cold out. If you just go, if I turn my car on right away, and then I start moving, you know what happens? My engine grinds.
Right.
I got to let it warm up. And it sounds like you're in that process with the exercise. And I
Right.
hear your willingness of, I want to improve my eating habits.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where.
Um, Cheryl, um, let me think about this. How do I want to phrase this? Um, so you want to improve your eating habits. So you're going to be a vegan. At the end of this, you're going to be a vegan and just eat plant-based. No,
Nope.
no, no. Yes. Oh, so you're going to be a vegetarian then.
Nope, not going to do
No,
that.
you're not going to do that. Okay.
Okay.
You're going to go to a raw diet.
Nope, not doing
No,
that either.
right. So what I'm highlighting is how big eating habits. All of
Oh
those
yeah,
things are theoretically things you could do to improve your eating habits.
correct.
Number one, are you eating a plant-based diet right now?
No,
Like where all you eat is right. So thinking about, is it achievable? Like if you came to me and you were like, I want to be a vegan and you're not a vegetarian, I'd be like, okay, can we work with where you're starting? It's that
got
achievable
it.
piece.
Got it.
So um, when we think about the value piece, what value domain resonated with you as something connected to wanting to eat healthier?
I said family relationships.
Okay.
And the reason I said that is because I feel if I'm eating better, I'm going to drop the weight I'm hoping to drop. And then I can participate in more things with my kids, with my husband, that sort of thing. My daughter is traveling this summer for a study abroad for her graduate degree program, and she's going to tack on some time in Copenhagen. And that's where my grandparents were born. And I was talking to her about going with, and she's like, "Well, Mom, I'm gonna walk a lot and ride the bikes a lot." And I said, "You know what? I might not be there yet, so we'll go again another time." And so I just feel like if I can improve my eating habits, that will equal some weight loss and better health conditions that I can kind of keep up and do some things like that.
Beautiful. So beautiful, right? Um, so much more meaningful than because the doctor said so, or
Exactly.
I know it would be good for me,
Exactly.
and I even want to say more meaningful, like, I mean, I like it when my clothes fit me better and I can go to the
Yes.
mall and stuff. I would also
Yes.
say what a deeply connected value you have coordinated with this, right? I want to be with my family. I want to share memories with, I mean, this is what I'm hearing. I want to
Yes.
share memories with them. I want to be a full participant in what my family is doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
When you think about the eating habits being connected to that versus, well, it's because I should, it's because the doctor said,
Right.
how does that feel different for you?
It gives me so much more, like, I don't know, like it gives me a picture of what it could be. Whereas like I've heard the doctor say, and my knee guy, all of the doctors, and they're 100% right. But I think this is the kick in the pants that is
Yeah.
going to get me into action.
Yeah.
So like it's so much more personable, and like I want to see that person on the other side do that.
So here's what I love that you did, and I didn't even ask Cheryl to do this, is you already started talking about one of the things that builds motivation that I described last week, which is spending time visualizing the change,
Yeah.
spending time 5 minutes a day savoring the idea of what will be different. And you already have that, Cheryl, right? Like you're already thinking about what is it going to look like when I get to go to Copenhagen with this trip and I can be there and walk around with my family.
Right.
What is it going to be like when my daughter says, I'm going to go on a biking trip. Do you want to come? And I get to say yes, right?
Hmm.
I'm visualizing it and I'm feeling, I mean, even when I said that, Cheryl, on your behalf, I was like, like I just felt excited. Like I felt
Yeah.
it in my body of
Yes.
like how good that would feel.
Yes.
Knee doctor didn't make you feel that way.
No.
Probably knee doctor maybe left you feeling a little ashamed that you
Yeah.
weren't eating healthier to lose the weight, right? We want to
Right.
get out of the shame spiral and
Right.
get in a spiral of going up.
Right.
Okay, beautiful. So let's talk about specifics because as I talked about, there's a lot of different starting points.
Sure.
Um, where, and I want to make a note, I'm going to go for the hour and then I'm going to do what I did last time, which is I'm going to stay after for about 10 to 15 minutes to do
Sure.
Q&A. So we'll get through the presentation. And then for those of you that can stay, I'll spend some time with questions. And if you can't stay, you're welcome to reach out to me. I'm happy to have a conversation after this. So when you think about eating healthier,
Yeah.
um, what we're looking at the elephant
Hmm.
metaphorically. I
Right.
don't know that eating elephant is very healthy, advisable, or legal. Um, what is one aspect of eating healthy that that feels like a starting point for you? And you can talk broadly if that would comes to mind, because we're going to talk about how to like narrow that down.
Sure. I think I need to get to a far greater amount of fruits and vegetables that I've been eating. We do cook a lot at home. Uh, I went to culinary school back in the day, so I love cooking and baking. So I'm trying to think about how I could adapt some of my recipes to become better aligned with my goals. So definitely fruits and vegetables, cooking at home
Okay. And
more.
so let me ask, because these are two different things.
Hmm.
Um, is the eating more fruits and veggies or the cooking more at home the place to start?
I
They
think
might
fruits and
fruits.
veggies, I think. Yeah. And like
Okay.
maybe I don't know if it's included in this, but like less snacking, like if maybe substitute my snacking habits to include the fruits and veggies,
Okay.
like
So, and I love what you're saying here, Cheryl, because what I hear is like three separate goals all getting blended together. Because now my goal is I'm going to cook more at home with more fruits and veggies, and I'm going to stop my snacking and I'm going to start eating more fruits and veggies.
yes.
That's a lot. But
Yeah.
I hear that one route towards eating more fruits and veggies is replacing a certain amount of snacking with a fruit or veggie choice.
Yes.
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 Right now, when you snack, how often are you just automatically reaching for a fruit or vegetable?
Not.
Not. Okay.
Not.
So are we going to have you every time you snack, stop eating Oreos and Doritos and eat a fruit or vegetable? I'm going to
It,
answer for you.
yeah, yeah.
No, we're
It's
not.
going to be
We're not
hard.
going to do that.
Yeah.
We're not going to do that.
Yeah.
So if you were going to have there be a substitution, is that right? That I want to reach
Yes.
for fruit or vegetable.
Yes.
Um, does the lever feel like we want to say the number of times in a week?
Yeah. I think that would be fair.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and when you think about the number of times in a week, are there days where it's just like really hard to be intentional about your eating habits right now?
Yeah, I do. We're empty nesters, and when the girls come and stay or visit, like, of course, I want to serve them, mom's comfort food and that sort of thing. So that's usually maybe, well,
Right.
once a week for my local and once a month for my not local daughter. So, um,
So we're talking like right now we're going from zero to something.
right,
We want it to feel reasonable because we want you to feel successful. We
right,
know that there's a speed bump when your daughters visit, and that's going to happen on a pretty regular basis one day. So
sure,
now
sure,
we know we're working with 6 days a week.
right,
If we, I'm going to put a timeline on this, okay?
okay,
So today's the 20th,
yeah,
and I'm going with March 7th here.
I like it.
Okay. If we go with March 7th, how many of those days a week do you think is reasonable to start implementing a reach for a fruit or veggie?
I think 5 days a week.
Okay. Help me understand why 5 days a week.
Well, it's basically 80%.
Okay.
And then I do have like 2 days to kind of not balance it, but indulge myself a little bit.
Okay.
I work three to four, and sometimes at work, that's where I get kind of like, I need a snack, and if there's something somebody brought in, I'll have it, or I'll hit the vending machine up. But I think I could totally, prepare like a Greek yogurt dip in, veggie sticks to kind of satiate that.
So can I make a suggestion as we're talking about this?
You bet.
Because I hear work in particular is a specific environment
Hmm.
where the temptation comes. It's difficult because you're not prepared. It's very time limited. It's 3 to 4 days a week that
Right,
you're at work.
right.
And I hear you saying 5 days. I will say in general, whatever your initial instinct is, I
Yeah,
will, if I'm working with people, I normally subtract one just
a
right off
lower.
the bat.
Sure, I like it
Um,
to
and
set
it's
myself up for more success.
exactly,
Got it.
exactly. Um, so 4 days in a week,
Hmm.
I'm gonna work to do a fruit or veggie as a replacement.
Love it.
Okay. And that we're gonna say one snack a day,
Yeah.
right? We're saying
Yes.
for one snack, substitute fruit or veggie snacks 4 days in a week.
I love it.
Yep. So achievable. So let's talk about what would be something that was going to contribute to this being something you can do.
Uh, Obviously, get to the grocery store, stock up
Do you
on.
already go to the grocery
Oh
store?
yeah. Oh yeah.
Do you go to the grocery store on a weekly basis?
Not as more like twice a week.
Okay, so even more frequently. So you already go to the
Yes.
grocery store
Yes.
2 times a week. Great, that's even
Yes.
better, right? Like I'm
Yes.
already there. I don't have to,
Yeah.
because that the goal, if that wasn't true, I might back up and say, hey, maybe the first goal needs to be making it to the grocery store
Grocery store.
once a
Got it.
week. I'm going
Got
to
it.
the
Got it.
grocery store twice a
Twice
week.
a week. Yep.
I heard you said you have culinary training. So
Yes.
I'm going to guess there is some insight, like professional insight you have into fruits and vegetables, how to make
Yes.
them interesting. I already heard
Right.
you talking about a Greek dip to make it
Yeah.
more
Yes.
appealing. Is there
Yes.
anything else that you think contributes to this being something that you can do?
Oh golly.
And the answer could be no. I'm just
Yeah.
squeezing the lemon here.
Yeah. Sure. Well, I have done the trainings with Lori
Okay.
and
Like
the
weight loss for
nutritionist.
wellness, the food and
Yes,
fitness.
exactly.
Okay.
Weight loss for wellness.
Well,
So
okay.
yeah. So
We renamed it, so
yeah.
we'll
Oh,
do.
okay, great. Oh, I like it. So like I've kept all of her slideshows in my on the laptop. So, definitely I could refer to those, she shares recipes and, swap outs and that sort of thing. So that would be definitely a tool
Perfect.
in my toolbox.
So you're already like moving, like we're coming up with the goal, but I also hear some preparation steps, right? I need to
Yes.
pull out the slideshows. I need to be
Yes.
looking at replacement ideas, right? So there
Right.
might be some steps in service of this goal before you're actually
Right.
doing it. Can I get
Yes.
that out and put it on the fridge, for instance?
Right. Right.
We
Right.
could theoretically have that be its own goal, honestly,
Yes.
but I have a sense that you've got enough internal drive here that that'll
Yes.
just be a part of it. And this is
Yes.
the achievable piece, right? You'll notice that as I'm talking to Cheryl, I direct this to you, Cheryl, but to everybody, is that we're taking a little inventory of what does she have in her bag that is going to
Mhm.
help her do this, right? She
Exactly.
has some resources specific to her experiences with the group here at the center, her
Yeah.
own knowledge. Sometimes when we get to the achievable, people realize I don't have the information. I
Yeah.
need to talk to an expert. I don't even know, right? I don't
Right.
know what I don't know. So then we
Right.
back up and we say, okay, so maybe the
Right.
information seeking is the goal right now. But it seems
Right.
like you've kind of got some of that going for you.
Yeah.
Um, is it relevant? is
100%.
I think we could just say 100%. I think it's got a lot of face validity. If I can, I'm doing two things. I'm adding more fruits and vegetables. I'm decreasing maybe some of the processed foods that
Exactly.
aren't as great for me. And
Yeah.
so it's timely, we're saying by March 7th.
Yes.
So now we have taken this very broad goal, which is improving, well, eating habits.
Yes.
And we've turned it into this beautiful goal, which says by March 7th, right? We've given ourselves a
Yes.
lovely runway.
Yes.
I will be substituting one snack per day with a fruit or veggie option for 4 days out of the week.
Love it.
When you see that on a scale of like 1 to 10, how achievable does that feel?
It really feels like a 9.5, if not a 10.
9.5. If what, again, squeezing the lemon,
Yeah.
what could help bump the 9.5 to a 10, do you think?
Yeah, that's a good question. Honestly, I think it should be a 10 because
It
I
should be a
do,
10,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
How motivated do you feel to move forward with this?
I feel super motivated. Like
Super motivated.
yeah, breaking it down in little bites, like you said, is just really, it feels like it's so achievable and I can get to that. And then,
Yeah,
after a month or so, I could build upon that and
beautiful.
add to it. Yeah.
So, you notice that I asked Cheryl two questions, and those are questions that you can ask yourself, right? When you develop a goal, you want to step back and say, how achievable does this feel, and how motivated do I feel to do it? Because achievable means, can I actually do it? Because sometimes we make a goal and we're like, yeah, my goal is to run 5 days a week. And then when I step back, I'm like, well, I can't do that because my knees are killing me. So that's a
Right.
very low achievable. My
Right.
motivation might be like a 9, but the
Right.
achievability might be low.
Exactly.
So if we find that when we ask ourselves that like scale of 1 to 10, that we're noticing that it's lower, then we can step back and say, what can I do?
Right.
Just as I asked Cheryl, what
Right.
would help bump it up? If it's at
Yeah.
if Cheryl said my motivation was at a 7, I might, then we could say, okay, what would be helpful to bump it up to like a 7.5 or an 8? So
Right.
then again, intentionally building that motivation. Cheryl, is there anything before I'm gonna put you on mute just to finish the presentation? Is there anything you want to share with me or with the group about this process, or anything that's sort of rattling around in your brain after talking this through?
Oh, it's very exciting. I'm so excited you did this at this time. Not back in January. Like this
Yeah,
program is like we're hoping March is coming, right? And it's spring is will be coming. So it just feels like I don't know. I feel like I've gotten some, I'm at the steering wheel now. I got the map,
ah, yeah,
so
yeah,
I am having some foot surgery in 3 weeks, and I just it's not, it shouldn't be too long of a recovery, but like by focusing on nutrition right now, I think that's really going to help. Once I'm able to jump
yeah,
back on the bike after that, kind of control what I can control, sort of thing. So like
exactly.
if I could work on my nutrition, and this is a huge help. So thank you,
Wonderful.
thank you
And
so
thank you
much.
so much for sharing. And
Oh,
I think that last part of what you said about the foot surgery, like if we had done fitness and we got to achievable,
yeah,
you would have said foot surgery, and I would
surgery.
have said, is this the
That's
goal to work
right
on right
now.
now? Or
Exactly.
is there a different goal? Knowing that, right?
Right.
That achievable piece is
Right.
really valuable. So,
Exactly.
Cheryl, thank you so much again.
Thank
And
you.
you're going to have to email me on March 7th and tell me
You
where
bet I
you're at.
will. I sure will. You
Yeah,
bet.
yeah. So, remember, you are going to hit speed bumps. Cheryl and I were just talking about a speed bump that she is going to hit maintaining her exercise routine that she's established, right? She's going to have foot surgery. she's probably not going to feel like exercising. The doctor may even tell her, stay off of your foot, do not do anything, keep it elevated, right? So you want to think about how do you anticipate that and not allow that to just completely derail you, and stay in touch with why I'm doing this, right? Why this is important, so that if you kind of, let's not say fall off the horse, but you temporarily hop off of the horse and give the horse some hay, you remember why you want to get back onto the horse. And to think about, what are your strategies that you have for dealing with problems and challenges, right? Do you like to list things out? Do you have a trusted friend or a partner that you need to talk through things with? Um, do you need to like scream into a pillow for a little while out of frustration to clear the energy so you can come back and be like, okay, what can I do about this, right? So really being self-reflective about how do I handle challenges, because there are going to be challenges when you make a change, because if there weren't challenges, then everybody would have just made the change already and we wouldn't be here talking about this. Um, I will end here to just say, again, we can intentionally focus on things that motivate us. Cheryl gave a wonderful example, a very specific example that she can like daydream about. What is it going to be like when I get to travel with my daughters and my body is feeling in a better position to be able to do all of that activity? We want to think about what could hurt my motivation, because then maybe I can plan around it. That why. Again, I did not ask Cheryl to have her value be around her family. That just happened organically. But notice that the value associated with a healthy lifestyle change was connected to something very deep for her that was not just about her physical well-being. And then also, we want those SMART goals. We want that feedback loop so that we can feel successful, right? When March 7th comes around, and I have a lot of confidence, Cheryl, here, that Cheryl's going to have started making those substitutions, that's going to feel pretty darn good. Now, I also want to leave some space here, Cheryl, that if we get to March 7th and we haven't done the 4, maybe we've done the 3, or maybe we did it and we couldn't do it on the days at work. That is just a point of self-reflection to say, okay, that goal was clearly not taking something into account that is important for me to have success. It is a experiment I ran with myself, and now I can take that information and step back and say, what's my next goal going to be so that I can be successful? So, with that, I'm going to throw my contact information up there for a moment. Um, I'm going to stick around here for about 10-15 minutes if people have questions or anything they want to talk through. If you've got to hop off, as I know some other people have, totally understand. I want to thank everybody for being here and hope that perhaps our paths cross again at some point in your Cancer Wellness Center experience.